The Jackson Center for Justice and Equality had officially opened its doors. But the work was just beginning. For Ethan and Elora Jackson, the center symbolized not only their victory over Officer Bradley Cole, but also the start of a much larger fight against systemic injustice. In the months following Cole's arrest, the couple's lives took on a whirlwind pace. They were no longer just a family recovering from trauma. They were leaders of a movement. The Jackson Center quickly became a hub for advocacy, legal aid, and community organizing. People from all walks of life arrived, seeking assistance, sharing their stories, and contributing to the cause. One of the first programs Ethan implemented was a legal workshop aimed at educating citizens about their rights when interacting with law enforcement. Knowledge is power, Ethan said during one of the workshops, and power is what they've been using to keep us down. It's time we take it back. Meanwhile, Elora focused on community healing. She started a support group for families who had suffered police violence, creating a safe space where they could share their pain and begin to heal. During one meeting, a mother named Janine shared the story of her son, who had been falsely imprisoned for 3 years. Her tears filled the room, and Elora's empathetic gaze never wavered. "We're going to fight for him," Elora said, reaching across the table to hold Janine's hand. "Just like we fought for our family. You're not alone." The center also began hosting town hall meetings, inviting local officials, activists, and residents to discuss reforms. Despite the initial resistance from law enforcement, the momentum was undeniable. Change was in the air, and the Jacksons were at the heart of it. ##### federal investigation expands. As the Jacksons focused on local change, the federal investigation into corruption within the New Orleans Police Department continued to grow. Prosecutor Daniel Armstrong's team uncovered more evidence of a network of misconduct stretching beyond Bradley Cole. Officers at various levels of the department were implicated, and the community's anger deepened. During a televised press conference, Armstrong announced the indictment of 5 additional officers. "This investigation is far from over," Armstrong said. "What we've uncovered so far is just the tip of the iceberg. We're committed to rooting out corruption and ensuring accountability at every level." For Ethan, this was a bittersweet victory. While he was glad to see progress, he knew the fight was far from over. He and Lucas Harper, the whistleblower who had risked everything to expose the truth, often strategized late into the night. The young officer had become a trusted ally and a key figure in the movement. "They'll fight back harder," Lucas warned during one of their meetings. "The higher-ups won't go down without a fight." Ethan nodded, his jaw tightening. "Let them. We've faced worse." ###challenges at home. While the movement grew stronger, the Jacksons faced challenges at home. Elora's recovery had been slow, and the emotional scars of the attack lingered. She often woke up in the middle of the night, trembling from nightmares of Bradley Cole's assault. Ethan would hold her until she calmed down, whispering words of reassurance. "I'm here," he'd say. "I won't let anyone hurt you again." Their son, Justice, was a constant source of joy and strength. His laughter filled their home, a reminder of what they were fighting for. Yet, the couple struggled to balance their roles as parents, activists, and leaders. There were moments of tension, times when the weight of their responsibilities seemed too much to bear. "We can't do everything," Elora said one evening as they sat at the kitchen table, reviewing plans for an upcoming rally. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "But if we don't, who will?" Elora reached for his hand. "We're stronger together, Ethan. We have to remember that." ###, a dangerous turning point. As the Jacksons' influence grew, so did the backlash. Anonymous threats became more frequent, and the family often felt they were being watched. One evening, as Ethan drove home from a meeting, he noticed a black SUV tailing him. He pulled into a busy parking lot, his military instincts kicking in, and watched as the SUV sped away. "They're trying to intimidate us," Ethan told Elora later that night. "But it's not going to work." The threats escalated when a brick was thrown through the window of the Jackson Center, shattering glass and scattering papers across the floor. Spray painted on the wall outside were the words, "Stay silent." Instead of retreating, The Jacksons doubled down. They installed security cameras and hired guards to protect the center. The community's response was overwhelming. Volunteers arrived to help clean up, and donations poured in to repair the damage. "This isn't just your fight," Janine said as she swept up shards of glass. "It's ours, too." Hashtag a pivotal rally. The Jacksons organized a massive rally in downtown New Orleans, calling for systemic reforms. Thousands of people attended, holding signs that read "Justice for All" and "End Police Corruption." Alora, still recovering but determined, took the stage alongside Ethan and Lucas Harper. "We stand here today not just for my family, but for every family that has suffered injustice," Alora said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "This isn't the end of the fight. It's only the beginning." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices echoing through the city streets. As the rally continued, Ethan and Lucas spoke about the need for transparency and accountability within law enforcement. They called for the establishment of an independent oversight committee to investigate police misconduct. "This is about rebuilding trust," Lucas said, "and that starts with accountability." Hashtag the cost of change. As the rally ended and the crowd dispersed, the Jacksons returned home, exhausted but hopeful. However, the fight had taken a toll. Ethan's health began to suffer from the constant stress and sleepless nights. Alora insisted he see a doctor, and the diagnosis was clear. He needed to slow down. "You can't pour from an empty cup," Alora said, her tone firm but loving. "We need you, Ethan. Justice needs you." Ethan reluctantly agreed to take a step back, delegating more responsibilities to his team. He spent more time with Alora and Justice, finding solace in their small moments of happiness. The family's resilience became a source of inspiration for the community. Hashtag a victory and a new beginning. Months later, the federal investigation culminated in the indictment of over 20 officers and officials within the New Orleans Police Department. The charges ranged from bribery and evidence tampering to assault and wrongful imprisonment. The news sent shockwaves through the city, signaling a turning point in the fight for justice. For the Jacksons, this was a hard-earned victory, but they knew their work was far from over. The Jackson Center expanded its programs, offering scholarships for young activists and launching initiatives to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community. Alora often spoke about the importance of hope during her public appearances. "Hope is what keeps us going," she'd say. "It's what gives us the strength to fight for a better tomorrow." As they looked toward the future, Ethan and Alora remained steadfast in their mission. They had turned their pain into purpose, transforming their family's tragedy into a beacon of hope for others. Their journey was far from over, but they faced it with unwavering determination and the belief that justice was worth every sacrifice. The Jackson Center for Justice and Equality became more than a building. It was a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the unyielding pursuit of what is right. And as Justice Jackson grew up, he carried with him the legacy of his parents' courage and the promise of a brighter future.